This is Zelric, and this is the second episode of Worst Skills in PoE. Uh, I make this series in order to hopefully have a list of skills that GG can look at eventually, not assuming that it'll ever be seen by them, but eventually have a list of skills that are easily referenceable and contain enough information for them to realize that these skills need a little bit of help. I'm not trying to shit on GGG or anybody that uses these skills. It's just a way of saying, hey, these skills either underperform or not used due to various reasons. And of course, all of the skills I talk about in this series can be used in various circumstances and can be used usually to make it to maps and do a lot of content. If you're more of a casual player, make it to endgame, but don't necessarily go too hard in blasting. A lot of these skills can get you through most of the content you're probably going to want to do anyway. But in the case of like my last video, Conversion Trap and Brand Recall, those weren't even main skills, but they are bad, not because they didn't have any use cases, but because not only do most people not use them, they also just do not fulfill the role they are meant to fulfill anymore, I don't feel like. And they need to be adjusted in order to better fulfill the role they are meant to play. The same thing applies for Summon Reaper, today's topic. Summon Reaper is a minion skill that summons one Reaper minion who uses physical attacks and can cause bleeding on a target with like a dash eviscerate type thing that he does, and I'll show you in a minute. A video of a person, I got permission to watch the video on my video. Sorry for saying video a bunch of times. Don't take a shot every time I say video. You'll die. Anyway, yeah. Reaper is a summon skill that summons a single Reaper minion that, when summoned, does physical damage and can cause bleeding with its attacks, like you see here. And the Reaper doesn't like to play nice with any other minion. When he is summoned, as you can see on the tooltip here, Reaper causes your non-Reaper minions to deal 20 to 29% less damage and causes them to have 20 to 29% max life. Less max life and less damage. Not reduced. Reduced is the better one of the two because it's additive or subtractive, I guess, whereas less is the opposite of more. So less means they're doing 20 to 29% like way multiplicatively or division less damage. So they obliterate your other minion's survivability and damage. And every minion build in PoE 1, or most of them I should say, use other minions other than the main minion type that they like to use in the build. But not only do they nerf your other minions, they also eat your other minions, as in take them, one-shot them to grant themselves a small temporary buff and heal themselves. So while you're using them, not only do all your other minions suck ass, your main guy here, Reaper, is eating your other minions to regain his own strength. And I will just go ahead and tell you, he doesn't do enough damage and doesn't live long enough for him to have all these downsides. He just doesn't. First of all, he is a minion. So regardless of what minion build you have, they are not known for their clear speed. So your clear speed is suffering already just because you're a minion build, but it suffers even worse on this build. It has good single target, admittedly decent, but there are better single target minion skills out there, i.e. skeletal mages, specters, zoomancer, stuff like that are just a lot better in terms of survivability, in terms of single target, and honestly sometimes even speed. SRS for another one. Summon Reaper just does not do enough, regardless of the version you have. And some builds use all three, or well, most builds don't use eviscerating very much, but they do use Revenant, I do believe, and the regular version of the skill. But regardless, there are builds out there that use Reaper as their main minion, but they're very admittedly just not great. And the video I will show you says that right off rip. If it's a build from 3.25 Sanctum that just is outright only play this if this is thematically one of your favorite skills. Because if you're looking for power or survivability or anything like that, this skill isn't going to be it for you. Every other minion skill in the game is going to be better. It needs a numerical buff, and it needs to be its downsides need to be lessened. I believe that the idea behind the Reaper was to give players an ability to have a quote-unquote big minion to have in order to, like, one big minion playstyle, basically. That was the goal behind adding the Reaper. Like a Brutus kind of idea, you know, where you have one big boss minion that can annihilate everything. Well, the problem with that is it just doesn't work. That's why they even put the nerfs of other minions on here, because it's trying to discourage you from even using other minions with him. But then he gets a buff from eating other minions. So they discourage it, but they also encourage it at the same time. It gives mixed signals to begin with. Though you can use a plethora of other minions to do that job, to give them the buff. But the buff itself really isn't anything to write home about. It just isn't. So I have a POB or a PoE Ninja build pulled up. This is not the build I'm going to show you later. The build is of another person. This is the build right here. The guy's name is Ghost Zapper. He made this obviously 9 months ago. Cries in League 9 months ago or 11 months ago. Anyway, he made this build, and one of the first things he says in the video is this list right here, which you can't see it very well, but basically this is his negatives. If you like, if this is what you shouldn't play this build if you like these things: clear speed, less than a billion buttons, because apparently this build, just like a lot of minion builds, use a billion buttons. Inferior to basically every other minion build. It's jank as hell. As in, like, it's clunky to play because of the Reaper itself killing the other minions around him. So if you're using Spectres to, say, support your minions, as a lot of minion builds do, he will blow them up in order to give himself a small buff. And it's absolutely not worth it, and it's really annoying to deal with. And then, of course, a second time clear speed, because it's abysmal. I will show you a clip of this man going through this with his build. This is not the build. This is just an example of a build. The gear's pretty cool. It's whatever, but I'm just going to scroll through this. If somebody wants to try and copy this is on PoE Ninja. If you want to try and copy this, you can pause the video here and do it. Or find it on PoE Ninja. I'm not really going to promote this because Reaper is just a bad build, and I don't recommend anybody play it, to be totally honest with you. It can look pretty impressive in this video, but he says himself that it's just not. It's just not. There are better options. And I think everybody knows that. But this, again, this is to more catalog that this skill is not great and that it needs buffs. So anyway, here is the video. I have muted it so that I can talk over it if I need to. But regardless, this is a video of him running a T17 with his Reaper build. This is I'm fairly certain he may show his build. I'll show you the build he's using.
I'm a 3.25 Settlers of Calgar Summon Reaper build. I almost said Cowgirl so hard there. Let's immediately talk about why you would or why you would most certainly not play this build. Starting with why you wouldn't play this. You like clear speed. You don't like pressing a lot of buttons. You don't like having...
Anyway,
In the same.
he didn't really go into his build on that much, but he did show slightly hit the more important stuff on here. And again, please go watch Ghost Zapper's video if you want to. I'm not going to show the whole thing to spoil it, but I will show certain snippets. It's a great video if you do want to follow his Reaper guide, or if you just want to know why a specific build of Reaper is just not super great unless you just really like the skill. Anyway, if you look at this, a bleed DPS for your minion of almost 14,000 is pretty good, honestly. I mean, it's nothing to scoff at. A lot of builds don't really reach this. But this is probably the most gear. This is a lot of gear. He himself admitted that it was something you have to work for a lot to get to this point to make it feel okay. And in just like say RF, where you have to sink hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of divines to make it even somewhat okay at doing certain content in the game, this build is like that, but on the nth degree, if that makes sense. Where RF is great in most of the game until you reach very specific, basically bossing content in most regards, this build has no upsides. RF is comfortable for most of the game. Once you get going, you can it's basically a walking simulator. The only thing it sucks at is single target, but it's comfortable. That's what you're trading, is you're trading your single target for comfortability in that build. This build is just janky and has better options and no damage other than single target, and you have no clear speed, and there's not upsides. Single target is better elsewhere too. So like, it's not like you're excelling at any one thing and sacrificing everything else. You're okay at single target and crap at everything else. So including comfortability of just playing the skill. This is the map modifiers that the guy runs. Amazing guy. I definitely recommend going to him and subscribing if you feel like it. Also like and subscribe to me, please. Thank you. That would be awesome. I'm a small channel, and any interaction you give, it's greatly appreciated and extremely helps this channel. But anyway, here's the T17 run of this T17 map for this build.
35% less defenses, which is the big.
I'm going to mute it like I said earlier. I'm not going to show the whole thing because I don't want to spoil the rest of the video, but yeah. Admittedly, it looks pretty impressive, especially but again, I want to reiterate that this is a very, 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 very geared build doing this run, and most people probably aren't going to make it to this level of gear before they're frustrated with this build. It's just not worth it. Your specters die like every map, he said, not because of enemies killing it, it's because of your own minions eating your specter in order to regain its own life and gain a little buff, which isn't worth it. This requires a lot of investment to get essentially where other builds can get to in half the investment. So anyway, this is kind of an example of it, and yeah. Basically, that's really what you need to know. I'm going to go ahead and exit out of that. That's the Summon Reaper skill. GGG, please, my suggestion is to buff this skill, but just giving it a massive numerical buff all the way around. If you plan on keeping it the way it is, where it has the negatives, this skill needs to be up far and away the best minions in terms of stats. To be justified in using this and saying, yes, I'm willing to sacrifice the damage and health of all my other minions, along with just having them die every map, to give this guy the time of day. He needs to have the stats to back it up, and he just doesn't. He can't scale well. You can't use it early game, so it's not like a leveling minion skill. And it doesn't really fulfill the fantasy of having one big boss mob right now. It just doesn't. And that's honestly the end all be all. It doesn't supply that feeling of having one big badass Reaper on your side to annihilate your enemies in the entire screen. No, what you get is a dickhead that decides he's going to have your minions for lunch, and he may do some damage to the enemies. Probably tomorrow. Maybe never. You never know. So, anyway, that is episode 2 of Worst Skills in PoE. Thank you so much for watching. Like I said before, sorry to spam it, but like and subscribe, leave a comment for what builds you want to have me look at next. I greatly appreciate any suggestions and or help you give with this video series in the process, suggestions, links to builds that I might be able to look at and watch while doing this in order to better understand certain skills, or just skills in general that you would like more eyes upon. Anyway, greatly, greatly, greatly appreciated. I really, really, really appreciate everybody. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Peace out.